Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro and my general thoughts on Sony this generation because, full disclosure, I don't own a PlayStation 5 and I'm definitely not buying a PlayStation 5 Pro, so that'll already tell you how I feel about this product to begin with. But let's get into the specifics of what the PlayStation 5 Pro is and mainly what I feel like is the most ridiculous pricing ever for a console. So let's get into it. Welcome to PlayStation 5 Pro, the most visually impressive way to play games on PlayStation. They say this stuff every time there's a new console, of course. So it's not like it's something you've never heard before. And as you'll see, there's a lot of marketing buzzwords. PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution AI to upscale the image is just kind of like, I mean, it's marketing speak. Obviously, like, you might see a little bump in fidelity, but I don't think it's going to be astronomical or anything. It'll probably be like the PlayStation 4 Pro was to the PS4, which I don't even think that's necessarily fair, because the PlayStation 4 Pro was essentially what the PlayStation 4 should have been when it launched, because the PlayStation 4 was super underpowered when it first came out. But anyway, let's get into the article. So over the last 4 years, they've worked to continuously evolve the console experience and blah, blah, blah. PlayStation 5 Pro is revealed. Here's what we care about right here. So they have an upgraded GPU. It has 67% more compute units than the current PS5 console, 28% faster memory. This enables up to 45% faster rendering for gameplay, making the experience much smoother. Advanced ray tracing. We've added even more powerful ray tracing that provides more dynamic reflection and refraction of light. This allows the rays to be cast at double and at times triple the speeds of the current PS5 console. Ray tracing is one of those things that looks really nice, but I don't think it's really worth the performance hit that it's at currently. Now, once the graphics cards that are capable of doing good ray tracing are much cheaper, then I could see it being something that I actually want, but for the time being, like, the price of what it costs to get a good card that's, you know, capable of doing really good ray tracing and not slow down, it's too much for it, in my opinion. Even with the PS5 Pro, when I get to the pricing, you'll see. And then you have AI-driven upscaling. We're also introducing PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, an AI-driven upscaling that uses a machine learning-based technology to provide super sharp image clarity by adding an extraordinary amount of detail. Again, that's all just marketing buzzword bullshit for the most part. Let's skim the video. I have not watched a full presentation. I mean, it's
per second.
Probably not really worth sitting through. So let's go through some of the gameplay.
Running on PS5.
Now, the thing about the PlayStation 5 Pro is basically you'll be able to play fidelity mode at like 4K 60, which is nice.
Let's compare this to the fidelity mode on PS5, which is only running at 30 frames per second.
So as you'll notice, the one on the right is running much smoother. Looks a little bit nicer. I mean, it's not like something you would need to buy an entirely new console for, I think. I still don't understand the point in spending what they're asking.
We can see that PS5 Pro is close to doubling.
Like, yeah, you get, you know, smoother frames. You don't have as much ghosting and blurring.
Is to look at PS5 Pro versus
like,
here is a difference in detail. PS5 Pro.
I just don't understand the point. For the price, it doesn't make sense to me. So let's get into the price real quick, because that's the main thing that's just blowing my mind. So this is going to retail in the US at $700, and it's not even going to have a disc drive. You'll have to buy a disc drive separately if you want to play your disc-based games. $700 US, 800 euros, which is insane, because let's go to the euro. 7.99 euro, that's 881 US dollars. That's regional pricing is ridiculous. But yeah, anyway, it's stupid. Like, diskless console. The 2TB SSD is fine. It's good to have a bigger, you know, beefier SSD, definitely. But $700 for what, a marginal increase in performance. You'll get 60 frames instead of 30 frames in fidelity mode. Fidelity mode to me already doesn't even make that big of a difference.
My favorite is the parade scene from Ratchet and Clank. Distant details are much clearer.
And from what I'm seeing here, like that, wow, you get like slightly sharper background images, and this is $200 more than the current PlayStation 5.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is noticeably higher resolution throughout the scene.
Like, I don't,
including the trees.
I don't see where the price is making any sense.
So overall, some remarkable.
In fact, I think the PlayStation 4, base PlayStation 4, actually, the one without the disc, I mean PlayStation 5, the base PlayStation 5 without the disc drive. Let's see, PS5 Slim price. Okay, so PS5 Slim, well, that's with the disc drive. I want one that without disc drive. PS5 no disc price. Okay, so it's $450. So, I mean, you're paying $50 more for a disc drive. So, let's say you're spending an additional $250 for new hardware. Now, when you're buying into the PlayStation 5, if you don't own a PlayStation 5 already, I could see somebody saving up a little bit more to get the PlayStation 5 Pro. I guess it's not a little bit more, it's basically an entirely, like, other console when you're talking Nintendo or Xbox, but $250 is a lot of money, especially these days when the economy is just not doing well. Like, I could see the people who don't already own a PlayStation 5 buying into it, and the few people who have the disposable income to buy it probably will, but by and large, I just don't see what the point in this entire thing is. I feel like with this generation, more so than any other, there just isn't enough games to justify a mid-gen refresh of hardware. So, PS5 exclusives. PlayStation 5 only games. 21 total. 21 games. Some of them aren't even out yet. So you're basically buying $700 for a console to play 21 PlayStation 5 only games at better frame rates and fidelity mode instead of just buying a base PS5, which, again, to me, even buying the base PS5 is ridiculous. When you look at that, it's 21 exclusives. You can buy a PS4 Pro right now and play most of the Sony games that come out. It doesn't make sense to me. This console generation is the absolute worst when it comes to that. I love the hardware, don't get me wrong. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X were great when it came to the hardware. But software-wise, this is the absolute worst generation for Sony and Microsoft. And the fact that they have the audacity to put out a new console when the current one barely has any games on it that are exclusive and actually taking full advantage of the hardware. Because I feel like with new games these days, they don't even optimize for the hardware that they're currently on. So adding all this new power, it's like, yay, now they can just brute force something else and they're going to get, you know, subpar performance because now they're just like, we have more power to play with. We don't have to optimize even further. And I'm not exactly a game dev. I'm not a game dev. I know a little bit about coding. I know a little bit about, you know, stuff in Blender and making levels and different programs. But when I think about the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Pro and also the, you know, Xbox Series S and X and the PS4 and PS4 Pro, I feel like it adds unnecessary development time when a developer has to sit there and make sure that their game runs on two separate pieces of hardware, especially when you think about third-party studios. So they're having to not only optimize for the Xbox Series S and X, now they also have to do it for the PS5 and PS5 Pro. It seems so inconvenient, and I just don't get why you need these mid-gen refreshes. Like, yeah, you had variations on consoles back then, and they did have a little bit of a performance boost here and there with the CPU or GPU or something, but it wasn't advertised as like this big step up as the Pro consoles are. And I don't get the point in them. They really don't make sense to me. Especially this generation when, you know, most of the games are third party, and I don't know. There's something about this generation that feels completely off. It feels like it's barely even been a year when it comes to the amount of games that have come out, and we're already on year 4. So we're halfway through. You can expect Xbox to probably put out their next console 2026, 2027, and Sony probably 2028 or 2029. Hopefully Nintendo puts out theirs sooner rather than later, but the $700 price point is just, it's absurd. It's the same as PlayStation 3 back in the day. But at least PlayStation 3 wasn't a mid-gen refresh. It was completely new hardware. With a $700 price point, you can get a pretty decent mid-range PC build for $700 and have thousands more games to play and more functionality. And like, I get a lot of people only are console gamers, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm like, when you're encroaching on PC territory with pricing, I don't think there's a good trade-off there. You're paying for a closed operating system platform where you can only play games and the select games that only work on that platform. So why not just take that $700, maybe save up another $150 and buy a capable PC? You know, at $500 it makes sense. $500 you're getting a low spec PC. You're not getting anywhere near PlayStation 5 levels of gaming from a $500 PC. But when you're getting up to $700, like, I don't think the trade-off for the performance is there when you can get a mid-range PC and have a lot more games to play, an entirely different ecosystem where you don't have to pay for PlayStation Plus or, you know, Xbox Game Pass. And I don't know. I don't understand console gaming right now. It feels like it's completely lost its usefulness. And Nintendo are the only ones that really feel like they know what they're doing. And I say that knowing that PlayStation has actually sold quite a bit of PS5. So, like, PS5 sales lifetime. So they've sold 58 million units. That's not bad. Much better than, you know, 28 million for the Xbox Series X and S. But when you look at stuff like the Nintendo Switch, and I know that's completely, I don't even consider them in the same league. Nintendo were like 20 steps ahead of both Microsoft and Sony at this point. 140 million units. And my main thing is just there's no real reason to buy these consoles unless you like the very select few exclusives. And again, that's it. That's your entire PlayStation 5 only game. And some of it is stuff that's already on the PlayStation 4, like Last of Us Part 2 or Project Wingman. Some of this isn't even out yet, like Marvel's Wolverine. It doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know. Which I don't think this is all of the games. I think there's still some. Because I think Returnal, was Returnal 1? I think Returnal was a PS5 exclusive. Yeah, so Returnal is a PS5 exclusive. So yeah, there's a few more than this list. Unless I'm missing Returnal on here somewhere. But yeah, overall I don't get the point. It doesn't make sense to me. There used to be, I know development for games has gotten way too bloated over the years, in my opinion. So you're not going to get as many first-party titles on a system. But when you look at somebody like Nintendo, where they're constantly putting out new stuff, even on their dry years, they're at least putting out 2 or 3 games a year. it almost makes me wonder why the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X exist at this point, but I know some people will think differently. I used to be a PlayStation fan, like hardcore. PlayStation was my thing. They lost me with the PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 5 hasn't brought me back at all. But yeah, if you look behind me, you'll notice, like, PlayStation 3, I have a lot of games. PlayStation 2, even PlayStation 4, I have quite a bit. PSP, PS1, I love PlayStation. But they seem to be putting out fewer and fewer exclusives, and the exclusives that they do put out all fall into the same general mold, where it's like your cinematic third-person action adventure game. And it's fine every now and then, but I feel like that's literally all they do, aside from the one-offs like an Astro game, which, don't get me wrong, Astrobot looks amazing. I want to play Astrobot. Like, I've looked up so much stuff about this game, and this is if I ever buy a PlayStation 5, it's going to be for Astrobot. But yeah, that's about it. It's just, right now, I don't think Sony is doing anywhere near what they should be doing with their console. I think they need more smaller games like Astrobot, and I don't say small game as a bad thing. I think it's the good thing that it's a small game. I want, 3 to 5 exclusives per year that are on the level of Astrobot. And I'm not sure how long it took to develop Astrobot. Yeah, roughly 3 years. 3 years is a decent development time. Between 2 and 4 years, great. Anything longer, I don't think the return on investment is worth it, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I wish Sony would get back to putting out all of their weird and wacky games. But they've closed, like, Japan Studio and a lot of their developers that put out all the great stuff that they used to have. It's just gone now. Like, back on PlayStation 3, you would get, like, Gravity Rush, Fat Princess, Little Big Planet. PSP was doing, like, Loco Roco and Patapon. Siren was still a thing. And I don't know. It's just right when PS4 came out. I feel like it's Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, Horizon. And then you have the exceptional games like Bloodborne, and the okay to good games like Spider-Man. I thought Spider-Man was decent. But I don't know. It's not for me. It's not something that I'm just like wanting to go out and buy a PlayStation 5. So when they show off the PlayStation 5 Pro and it's just visual upgrades or performance upgrades for $200 more, I'm already finding the base PS5 a hard sell. I will get one eventually, but the fact that I can't even justify $500 for a base PS5, and they're wanting me to pay $700 for one that's just a performance upgrade, no thank you. It makes no sense. I really wish Sony could get back on track, and again, I might be the outlier. Like, Sony might be great to a lot of people, but for me, it just doesn't do it, and I really wish they would get back to where I could say Sony is my favorite again. It feels weird to be back on Team Nintendo after, almost 30 years, I guess 20, 25 years of being Team PlayStation, basically, when it came to my favorite consoles and favorite games on consoles. So yeah, that's about all I have to say. If you liked the video, like the video, dislike the video. If you dislike the video, let me know down in the comments why you dislike the video, if you dislike the video. And tell me, do you think the PS5 Pro is overpriced? What do you think of Sony this generation, or this generation in general? It's weird. It feels like it's barely even begun, and it's already almost a half a decade. So, yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next video.